everyone, and welcome back to the Counterpoint podcast. I'm your host, Neil Shah, and today we are going to talk about a very innovative technology called CloudSIM, which will take the eSIM to the next level. A few months back, we had an interesting discussion with Olivier Leroux from Oasis Smart-SIM, where we talked about how the component shortages and the entire ecosystem has been suffering, especially with the SIM card and eSIM, and how it has accelerated a need for better eSIM connectivity and migration. So today we have Olivier back on the show. So we're going to talk about how Oasis and Tata Communications are building this new architecture called CloudSIM and how it will help catalyze the eSIM adoption. So without further ado, let me welcome Olivier. Bonjour, Olivier. How are you? Great to have you here.
Bonjour, Neil. Thank you very much for having me back here. It's always a pleasure to have this session with you and to talk to your listeners and to try to see what are the fundamental trends of the industry. And yeah, a very different subject for last month's podcast where we were talking about the difficulty of the semiconductor industry. Here we are going to talk. We are looking to look forward. We are going to see what are the future evolution of the industry in something which we think would be a fundamental evolution of the technology in the year to come.
So we have been discussing about eSIM for almost now 6 to 7 years. It has gotten to mainstream level thanks to Apple, thanks to automotive industry as well, where we have seen a greater adoption of eSIM, right? So, but still there are some bottlenecks from architecture point of view, from supply chain point of view, which we discussed last time, and also broader adoption when it comes to M2M or IoT settings, right? So can you talk about a little bit of challenges which industry is facing and how we can solve those?
Okay. So as you said, one of the first challenge the eSIM industry is facing is really the fact that eSIM is not one standard, but two, and in the future, three standards, which are working together. And this is a reflection of the reality. The industry started thinking that the eSIM would be totally dedicated to M2M. And therefore, and when people think about M2M, they mostly think about automotive. And that was the first standard, the SGP02. Then we realized, and it was a pressure from the OEM, that there was a strong demand from the consumer device industry, because you remember we discussed about that. The traction is really coming from the smartphone OEMs on this eSIM, and therefore a second standard was born. And we realized then that there was a unserved gap in the middle, which was this IoT space, and hence the industry is working on this third standard, HGP32. But the reality is we are still learning about those standards, and the reality is, the M2M is a good standard for automobile, but maybe a bit too rigid for other industry, too vertical, too static. The standard for the consumer is fundamentally a replication of the traditional SIM model. It has faced some challenge of adoption by the MNO, but we keep moving. But fundamentally, it remains a SIM, and the IoT is a type of converging model, so no new evolution. And in parallel, the world changed. The usage changed. When we started to define those standards 10 years ago, there was hardly one connection point into an automotive. And now we start to see automotive getting into the market with 6, 7, 8 connection points. It's not only the car by itself, the dashboard need to be connected, some other part of the vehicle need to be connected, the passenger want to have their own connectivity. So we have on one side the need to have permanent connectivity anywhere, at all the time, and we need to accommodate new usage. And fundamentally, the three standards which exist in eSIM answer part of the need, but not all the need. And this is why this innovation that is bring forward by Oasis and Tata Communications intend to provide solution to new needs.
So can you give an example on this new innovation which you guys are working on, a glimpse of it?
Well, the idea, okay, is to say, yes, we can rely on permanent connectivity. And this permanent connectivity is well covered by eSIM, or SIM. Let's be clear. You want to connect a device one way permanently. When I call permanently, is 24/7 and everything. You are well served by what exists in terms of technology. But there are now business case that start to develop into the industry where you need on-demand connectivity. Because you need on-demand connectivity because at some point of time, you need additional bandwidth. At some point of time, you may want to use a different channel of connectivity for security. Because the service you want to offer with your connectivity is not a permanent service. And we can take some very simple example. If you manage a rental car company, your car are not rented all the time. And the connectivity you want to give to your customer is just during the usage of the car by this customer. So maybe this customer will rent the car for one day, and maybe this customer will rent the car for 3 hours. How do you accommodate that? And the answer is not factored into the eSIM. You need to invent different technology, different way to operate the access to the network, and this is what we intend to do with the CloudSIM.
That's it's super interesting. So do you say this as a alternative to eSIM or a complementary technology to eSIM?
It is definitely a complement. Okay, we are not with this technology, and you know that Oasis Tata, we are pushing very strong toward the eSIM. We propose to the market with the Tata Move platform something which is very unique, which is covering all the technology, which is very horizontal towards segment, toward the UEM technology and everything. So we are a great sponsor, promoter of eSIM technology in the market. So the intention with CloudSIM, a technology we did not discuss it, but I assume people understand that fundamentally we want to position the SIM functionality in the cloud and to manage the pairing between the device and the cloud SIM into a smart and secure way, so that there is a dynamic of association between the device and the cloud SIM, which is quite agile, quite rapid, which allow to do pool subscription management, fleet management, many use cases that maybe we will discuss after. So clearly it complements the action on the SIM. We don't intend in any way to replace or to say it is better. It offers different use case. It offers different business model, and we try to address to answer different questions with the cloud SIM.
Correct. No, that's a great example of rental car company, and I completely agree that total cost of ownership, there could be a lot of advantages, right? Or use cases where you don't have to pay 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we are not here mentioning the cost of the cloud SIM itself. That's not the point. The really point is the point of connectivity, So how you can optimize your connectivity, which is very often linked to permanency, the number of points of permanent connection and everything. And here you can create a pool effect, ratio effect, which will have a deep impact on the improvement of your cost of deployment of connectivity. And through the on-demand, this is where you fundamentally change the model.
What are the different use cases other than that the rental car company example you gave would be like really good?
Yeah, that's why I don't want to, though we invite your listener to come to the workshop we are going to do during Mobile World Congress on automotive, where we will discuss other use case on automotive. This is not the only, of course, the only segment we intend to cover with this technology. Let me give you one or two different examples. Many people today work from home. Today, because we are still into a type of post-COVID type of abnormal situation, most of them are using their own connectivity to access the company's information system. Neil, you don't work all the time. More and more, you will need dedicated connectivity to access the IT backend of the company. Can you, and this is something we are going to show during this Mobile World Congress, can you connect this cloud SIM technology to your PC so that when you start to work, you can access on demand during your working shift, a mobile connectivity which provides you a secure, economical access and supported by the company access to the IT system of the company. So that's one of the use case we intend to cover. We understand that in many industrial equipment today, the access to the equipment by the equipment manufacturer is not possible through the IT organization of where it is deployed. Imagine you are supplying manufacturing equipment. No way a company will give you access to its IT infrastructure to do the remote support of the equipment. With CloudSIM, we open the possibility to open dedicated secure channel on demand to this equipment so that the remote maintenance can be done. Okay, so in the industrial field, we see some strong application. Even in the enterprise field, we see some very key benefits that could reflect from the usage of this on-demand connectivity solution.
Absolutely. More I hear about it, I can envision different use cases where, in fact, many of the use cases in IoT, right, where are don't require permanent connectivity. They send data in bursts, right, one time a day or two times a day. So completely agree with.
Exactly. And again, I think it is difficult in a podcast like this to give you a full perspective on the possibility of the technology. But, we can also address use case where the primary access of the device to the network is not mobile, where, you have devices which are connected through satellite, through narrowband IoT network and everything. And suddenly, bootstrapping those existing connectivity, you can fire up on demand a mobile connectivity. Imagine you deployed satellite gateway, and from time to time, you have your gateway which is in your company and everything, and from time to time, again for use case we described earlier, because you need additional bandwidth, because you are requested to use a dedicated VPN to access some system. You are powering on for a period of time. That could be 1 hour, that could be 1 day, 1 week, a CloudSIM which will give you to a mobile network. And this type of flexibility open endless opportunity. And because we are talking from time to time that we've been announcing, we released the first prototype of this technology in October 2020. It was really a prototype. And since 3 years, we are working on industrialization, working out the use case and the business case. And at no point into this journey, we have said, no, we see some risk with this technology. We don't believe into the future of this technology. And, it's been reviewed, of course, internally at Oasis. Then Oasis became part of Tata Communication Group. And the energy, the feeling that we have something great to play is the same within Oasis, with its Tata. And this will be one of the major innovation, and because we arrived to the Mobile World Congress with an MVP, something which is ready to be deployed by some industrial player in the market. We are seeing the same level of energy and passion toward this CloudSIM solution.
That's great. I believe this is more of a proprietary technology, and you have intellectual property for this. But do you see this also becoming more of a standardized technology?
Of course, this is an objective. I understand it will take patience, effort to convince the ecosystem. I have a fantastic team for that. We are pushing. We are starting to get a lobby. It's not mandatory. Again, today the technology is supported end to end by Tata Communication. Hopefully soon by the sponsor of Tata Communication, and we will welcome every MNO that want to access this CloudSIM technology. It's also a technology which is ready to be assembled. It has been designed in a way where, in the same sense of security, it can be assembled to the remote SIM provisioning infrastructure. I mean, again, during a podcast, this is difficult to explain, but we will welcome anybody who want to discuss that during Mobile World Congress of after, and how we can link the cloud SIM to the RSP infrastructure. But But again, it is true that it is our intellectual property. This is a product we are patenting. This is an innovation we are bringing to the market with the ambition at some point of time to get it accepted by the ecosystem. It's not mandatory. It's not a showstopper. It will be something good.
I asked that question because I was also thinking about scalability and interoperability of the solution. And I believe since it's cloud based, it should not be a huge issue.
No, it's not a huge issue. I mean, the scalability is fantastic on this technology. I mean, hopefully, we will see in the near future how easy it is to deploy IoT or the use case we mentioned with this technology, the scalability. There is no hardware involved. There is no footprint into the device or very little footprint into the device. As you say, it's cloud-based, so the scalability is quite important. And again, I think that when we get to outside of this image, which is sometimes associated with the cloud, which is the lack of security and everything, which is not true. And again, we are calling it cloud because the software is positioned on the cloud, but we position the software into a private cloud, which is GSMA-certified. So it's not open. It's not open cloud and everything. So we fundamentally respect all the principle of the security for SIM and for eSIM standard. So I think that will only take time, and that the ecosystem will soon realize that this is something that we can deploy and we can scale in a fast manner in the industry.
It's fascinating. We have been discussing about these different challenges, and I see some solution coming out finally, which can address many of these challenges in a more efficient way. And MWC is the right setting, I believe, with so many mobile operators, ecosystem players out there. And with use cases like private networks coming out and on-demand connectivity is the mantra, I believe.
It come together. I forgot, and my apology for that. But this is the point of those podcasts, Neil. I mean, private network is a super use case also, and this is highly promoted by my team. And access to private network is very often on demand. I mean, you can reside in the private network, but let's say if you build up private network, people are in and out. And what do you need to do? So we see a lot of try in terms of technology, using eSIM, using multi-IMSI, some type of, I would say, weird technology, or technology which are too heavy to get deployed and to be scaled for private network, where the use case of technology, of the CloudSIM technology for CloudSIM is tremendous, because it facilitates the adoption, the integration of a device to a private network. So this is, yeah. And again, I'm happy you say that. I think all those innovation, all those things are coming because at the moment what we have is a bit too rigid, has not been designed to be flexible, to change too often. We are not here to debate why. We don't want to, but we need to consider that the world and the ecosystem we are operating in require this agility, this flexibility, this scalability. And that's why at least we are bringing our stone to the foundation of this IoT house. And I think with this one, we are proposing something which is fundamentally different and which answers fundamental and critical points that are faced by many stakeholders in the ecosystem today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And look forward to visiting your booth and getting the demos firsthand and talking more about it in the industry. It's super excited about this. And thanks, Olivier, for being on this podcast.
No, Neil, always a pleasure. Hope your listener will have said something again. We will be at Mobile World Congress, and like you, we welcome everybody on our booth and the Tata booth to do some demo, automotive, non-automotive, with different use case. You know where to find us, and we can organize podcast seminars and interaction with people interested. So always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for our listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or want more information, do reach out to us on our email, contact@counterpointresearch.com. You can also listen to our previous podcast on major podcasting platforms as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. For now, it's Neil Shah signing off. Have a good day and good evening. See you next time, and hopefully with some more interesting topics and innovations like these. Thank you very much.